Good morning, Energy Express friends. Who wants to play in the dirt? Yep, that's what today's episode of Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go is all about. Well, sort of. Let's head over to Miss Amie and get started.
Hi friends, it's Miss Amie with West Virginia University Extension Service Family Nutrition Program. Today on the show, we are going to learn a lot and have a lot of fun. We are going to learn about soil and water and something called compost. We're also going to have 2 activities to check out. 1, box gardening and how you could do one at home, and 2, shake, rattle, and roll, helping you determine your soil type. We'll have a read-aloud story. We are the gardeners. Of course, a wonderful recipe from Molly's Kitchen. And we'll get a little exercise in the garden by looking at garden maintenance, specifically weeding your garden. Come along. What is soil? Soil is the building block of all life.
Living things as diverse as cows, beetles, sunflowers, and people all depend on soil. Cows and other animals feed on plants growing in the soil. Beetles burrow and live in the soil during their life cycle. Sunflowers and other plants grow in soil, which anchors them and holds the water and nutrients they need to grow. And people depend on soil for food to eat, clothes to wear, wood to build houses, and even for sweet treats such as ice cream and chewing gum to enjoy.
Soil is composed of 3 main things. The first is rocks. Rocks that are broken down over time into tiny particles. The second is decomposing plants and animals, like grass clippings, leaves, fallen trees. And the third thing are microorganisms. These help build our soil and help the decomposing process of plants and animals. They're so tiny that we can't see them with our eyes. You'd need a microscope. Today, we're going to do an activity where we are going to find out what's in your soil and what's in my soil. It's called shake, rattle, and roll. You'll only need a jar and a shovel. Let's go to the activity.
Here we are in the garden. I chose the spot where we pulled potatoes from last week. Let's pull back the straw so we can start to get a soil sample. It's important to note that you don't want just the top part of your soil. You want to dig down at least 6 inches. Let's dig. Loosen everything up. You'll notice on the side I have a jar and a watering can. Oh, there's a baby potato. We're going to fill our jar halfway with soil. For this, I'll use my hand shovel. Start to fill your jar until you have it halfway up. There's halfway. Next, you'll want to fill the remainder of your jar with water. That looks good. Leave a little bit of space at the top for air because, again, this is called shake, rattle, and roll. We're going to need it to be able to be mixed around. Next, you want to shake, 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 rattle, and roll your jar.
Once you are done shaking your jar and you have everything as small as it can be, all the big chunks are broken down, let it sit at least 1 minute. You will see it start to separate. We have organic matter on top, which we'll talk about next. We have water in this section, and at the bottom we have our soil. Soil has 3 main texture types. There's clay, which is the smallest particle size, which will be at the top. Silt, which is the medium particle size, will be in the middle. And sand, which is the largest particle size, will settle at the bottom. You want to let your jar settle for 24 hours. Then you'll be able to look at your soil to see which section is the largest. That's how you'll be able to know what type of soil you have. I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours. So I want to talk to you about soil improvements and composting. Even though leaves fall from trees, they don't just gather underneath the bottom of the tree and stay there as leaves. They slowly start to break down and decompose. As the leaves break down and decompose, they become what's called organic matter, which is healthy for our soil. It helps not only loosen our soil, but feed our soil. When leaves decompose, they are not leaves anymore. They become part of the soil called organic matter. Organic matter is made up of bits and pieces of plants or animals that used to be alive. Organic matter is good for the soil because it loosens it so the roots can grow more easily. It also makes the soil hold water better. So let's talk more about organic matter and composting. Do you know what recycling is and why it's important? Recycling is taking things that we no longer need or use and repurposing them to be useful again. In the garden, our soil needs organic matter, and many gardeners choose to do what's called composting to speed the process up of making organic matter to add to their gardens. Compost bins come in all shapes and sizes. There's 4 main components to composting. There's the green stuff, the brown stuff, water, and soil. Let's take a look at some green stuff. Green stuff such as grass clippings or leaves that have just fallen add nitrogen to our soil and help speed up the composting process by heating everything up. The brown stuff. Brown stuff is leaves and things that have been dead long enough to be brown, and they add carbon to our compost. Next is water. Water is necessary in the composting process as it helps break everything down and keep things moist and allow for the fungi and bacteria to be able to grow. And finally, soil. Having a little soil in our compost helps the process get jump-started. Soil naturally contains living organisms, and we need these organisms to help break down the layers of green and brown and turn everything into organic matter, which we need in our garden. Today, we're going to take a look at box gardening. Box gardening uses the principles of composting, or the layering of materials in the boxes, in order to create organic matter to feed our plants. Let's take a look at how you can create a box garden at home.
How to build a box garden. The best things about box gardens is that they can be put anywhere. You get to grow fruits and vegetables, and you get to decorate your own box. Box gardens are based off of hugelkultur. Hugelkultur means hill culture or mound. It's literally a raised garden bed that is built from the bottom up, using sticks, logs, branches, grass clippings, food scraps, everything you would put into your compost. It's topped off with topsoil, and then you're ready to plant in it. First, you'll need a strong box. You want to make sure that your box is not waxed and that there's holes on the bottom or that you push the bottom open. Pick a location for your box that gets at least 6 hours of sunlight. Next, you'll want to decorate your box. Then, just like hugelkultur, we'll make layers with the green stuff and the brown stuff. Once you have your layers in your box, you get to pick out your plants. You can start from seed, or you can start with transplants. Amelia chose 2 tomato plants and 1 basil. She companion planted. And finally, make sure that you water your box garden.
Box gardening is a lot of fun. One added benefit to box gardening is that you get to do art and design your box any way that you like. Remember that you still need to water your garden even though you put it into a composting or lasagna layering garden. Today we're going to read We Are the Gardeners. It was written by Joanna Gaines and kids. We Are the Gardeners. That's a pretty official title, but we didn't start out this way. Just like our garden, we started small and grew from there. Some say that a garden just grows from seeds, but we think it grows from trying and failing and trying again. A garden is hard work, but so is most of the good, important stuff in life. Our family's garden story begins with one small potted fern. Dad stumbled upon it one day at the hardware store when he ran in for some supplies. He said it was just too cute to leave behind, and he thought it would make Mom smile. And it did. We chose a sunny windowsill for that pretty little fern. It seemed like a good, safe spot for him to grow. This was back when we were little kids, but we still remember visiting the plant each day to give him a drink, and sometimes we'd even whisper to him a bit. And then, plot twist. Out of nowhere, our fern died. Death by overhydration. That's just a fancy way of saying we gave him way too much water. Looking back, each one of us must have watered him every day. That's a lot of drinks for a little plant. By mistake, we loved that plant to death. Some people tell themselves they are no good at something after one small failure, but no chance we were going to give up that easy. So we checked out some books from the library, and we found out that ferns can be tricky and prefer to live in a shady spot. Apparently, a plant's leaves can communicate to us what they're needing. We also learned that most plants have good manners and like to sip, not gulp. Lesson learned. Dad got us a fresh fern, and with it came fresh hope. This time, we set the pot on our piano, way on the other side of the room, where the sun wouldn't give him so much attention. We made a watering schedule and took turns saying a lot of nice things to our little sprout of a plant. And fern number 2 lived and thrived and grew. And finally, Mom got him a little potted friend. And then another. And then 1 or 2 more. We noticed that talking to our plants actually helped them grow bigger and stronger. So we added some songs and jokes into the mix. Unlike when we overwatered, 0 plants died from us talking too much. Pretty soon, plants were taking over the house, and Dad said it was time to graduate to an outdoor garden. Mom was as excited about the new outdoor garden as we were, and she started talking about it with a dreamy look in her eyes. That's when Dad called a family meeting so we could come up with a real plan. We all gathered around the kitchen table and got to work dreaming, planning, and drawing things out. We knew we needed a sunny spot, a place where the plants could sunbathe for at least 6 hours a day. We'd be red as radishes if we did that, but plants just love it. And more than that, they need it. In the garden, there is no life without light. Dad always says that the foundation is the most important thing when it comes to building a house. A house can't be strong if it's built on something weak, and the same holds true in the garden. So to make the foundation of our garden strong, we filled it with something called soil. Good soil, which includes a bunch of tiny living things called organisms, can grow things in it. That's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it. A whole hidden world of life is happening beneath our feet. Just because you can't see the good things with your eyes doesn't mean they're not there. And another cool thing about soil is that it feeds and strengthens the seeds we sow, and then, like a miracle, plants and flowers burst out of the ground. We also knew we needed our garden to get plenty of water. Rain is the very best thing for plants to drink, but it's hard to know when and if rain is coming. So a couple other options to keep plants hydrated are to collect rainwater or use a sprinkler or garden hose to get the job done. Once we had a location with plenty of sun, good soil, and a watering plan, we got right to work. First things first, seeds. The most fun part of planning out our garden was deciding what to plant. We started with the foods we like to eat, like strawberries and tomatoes, and then we chose some pretty flowers to keep them company. The thing about seeds is that they're everyday miracles. Everything a plant will grow up to be is already hidden inside the seed. We chose flowers like zinnias, sunflowers, and cosmos so that the pollinators would visit our garden. Butterflies, hummingbirds, and bees spread pollen around from flower to flower, encouraging even more things to bloom. We like knowing that little helpers are out there in nature working with us to help this garden grow. The bees must have put the word out that we had a pretty good thing going, because sure enough, all sorts of other critters started to arrive. We quickly found out that there were 3 types of bugs in our backyard: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the worst part. It was a pretty sad day when the aphids arrived. They are some of the more well-known villains in the garden world. They suck the life right out of plants. But then the ladybugs showed up to eat those pesky aphids for lunch. Ladybugs are for sure part of the hero camp, bravely protecting our plant friends from harm. And we've got to tell you about the earthworms. They're like the secret agents of the garden. Earthworms eat all of the dead things, like old roots and leaves, and turn them into new life for the soil. Every time we found one, we would all high-five and celebrate. They aren't pretty, but who cares? They're awesome, and we love seeing them hard at work. We realized pretty quickly that we needed to keep the weeds out. They are the true bullies of the garden. Weeds try to steal water, sunlight, and nutrients from our fruits and vegetables, and it's our job to make sure those little rascals don't take over. If we ignore the garden for too long, the weeds run wild and hurt our beloved plants. It's so much easier to do just a bit every day. We were officially gardeners and had a real-life garden to prove it. That garden became our pride and joy. Day in and day out, we tended to our plants, making sure they got plenty of sun and water. Every time a new plant sprouted up from the ground, our excitement grew right along with it. As time passed, our garden grew bigger, and so did our family. When our garden was finally in full bloom and growing tall, we'd run through the aisles and watch the butterflies flutter around us. But one day, as we were mid-skip, we noticed some trespassers helping themselves to lunch, and by lunch, we mean half of the garden. Animals may look cute and innocent, but some have a sneaky side. They can wipe out a garden in no time flat. The chickens ate the vegetables, the goats ate Mom's roses, and the bunnies weren't picky at all. They ate everything in sight. Saying goodbye to that many happy plants was even harder than throwing away our first dead fern. We debated if we should just give up. Was it really worth it to start all over again? Then we remembered one important detail. We are the gardeners. It was our responsibility not only to grow this garden, but also to protect it. So we put up a little fence to keep the animals out, and we got to work rebuilding our garden. It didn't take long to get our plants and flowers growing tall again. To this day, our very favorite days are when we get to gather the fruits of our labor. Mom loves to set the table with pretty flowers in every color you can imagine. We help her dream up recipes for the food we've grown. Sometimes when we see all that beauty laid out, we can't believe our hands helped bring it to life, and it makes all the hard work worth it. It's what keeps us coming back, day after day and season after season. We still keep a little fern on the piano to remind us of our small beginnings. Every time we water it, we're reminded not to give up when things don't work out the first time. Because the thing is, whether one potted fern dies or half the garden is wiped out by little critters, every failure or setback teaches us something. Dad says that every hard thing we choose to do makes us braver for the next time. There are so many lessons waiting to be learned and a whole world of gardening ready to bloom. We are the gardeners, and you can be too. The end.
This week's Garden Journal is Garden Journal Week 7. It's important to eat a variety of foods to give your body the nutrients and fuel it needs. A good way to help you get that variety is to eat foods of many different colors. Take the rainbow challenge below by writing the name of a vegetable or fruit beside its color. Can you think of one for blue? Maybe blueberries. Fill in the name of a fruit or vegetable for each color. This week's tasting is spinach. Make sure you use all 5 of your senses to grade your spinach.
This week's recipe is spinach smoothies. Let's go check out Molly in the kitchen.
Hi, I'm Molly with West Virginia University Extension Service Family Nutrition Program, and this week we're going to make a mean green spinach smoothie. For this recipe, you need 4 cups of baby spinach that has been thoroughly washed, 2 6-ounce cans of 100% pineapple juice, 1 Granny Smith apple that has been washed, cored, and chopped up, a handful of ice, and 2 cups of frozen pineapple chunks. The first thing we're going to add is our ice. I have washed my hands and cleaned my cooking area. Next, I'm going to add my Granny Smith apple, my pineapple juice, you can also get pineapple chunks, and when you drain the can, use that as your pineapple juice. 2 cups of our frozen pineapple chunks. Stuff that down in there. And then we're going to add our spinach. This is baby spinach. The leaves are a little bit more soft and tender. I'm just going to eyeball about 4 cups and stuff it down in our blender. I might have to start it to break some of this stuff down first to get it all in there. This is a great dairy-free smoothie alternative. Most smoothies have milk or yogurt in them. Oh, it's all gonna fit. Okay. I'm gonna click my blender lid on. And I'm gonna start it. Okay, I just blended this. I had to stop and start it a few times, and with a spoon stuff down my spinach to make sure everything got incorporated together. So now is the fun part. I've got my friend Trevor here to try our mean green spinach smoothie. We're gonna try it at the same time. Come on over, Trevor. Maybe we should try it with a spoon. What do you think?
Probably.
Okay. Let's each get a spoon. Stir it up a little bit. Does it smell good? Okay. Let's try a bite. Pretty good, isn't it? You like it? Does it taste like spinach? I know, it's a delicious refreshing smoothie to make on a hot summer day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Hi friends, Miss Amy here. We are out in the garden and we are going to do a little garden maintenance. So here's my tomato, right? It's got its stem right here. Below here there's a marigold. There's some basil, more marigold, a few more basil plants, and then over on that side there's some oregano. Certain things like this I did not plant. Now there's a few rules to actually weeding your garden is what you consider a weed. Some things plant themselves and you might want to leave them there. Other things, like this grass, I do not want here. So I'm going to go ahead and get low to it and pull it out. Right. And you want to make sure that you get these out of your garden completely. For me, I'm going to give them to my chickens. So this right here is actually another flower. So I'm going to try to get that to stay in the soil where I want it. This is another weed. This is actually a dandelion. Another weed. You want to leave the dirt, just take the weeds out of there. Does anyone else see this little guy here? That's if we can get him. Well, he went down very quick.
Hey Energy Express friends, did you have a fun day? I know I did. Well, we'll see you again soon for more fun and more activities. Have a good one. Bye-bye.